How are you guys doing? Welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash Liar. I'm your host Ryan, and in this week's video we're going to talk about and respond to Trader University's video about bewaring of the Bitcoin Cash liars. Some of that I'm of course joking about. This is Ryan Giffen. Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad to be making a sit-down video. I've been traveling for the last couple months, so super excited to talk about this video from a Bitcoin maximalist. So a Bitcoin maximalist, what's a Bitcoin maximalist? They believe that it's only Bitcoin that will succeed and everything they do is correct. Of course, like Bcashers that forked away do everything wrong. In this video, you'll probably hear a more balanced tone, right? Like there's some things that Bitcoin Cash could have done it better in the past, and there's certainly some issues with the current Bitcoin protocol, in my opinion. So hopefully, in response to this video that Trader University made, you'll hear a balanced view, and you'll see why things can coexist and be used for different use cases. And for cars, I might be a Tesla maximalist, but I think there's gonna be other cars out there, and they'll probably sell lots of cars, and they'll probably make great products over time. So, with all that said, let's jump into the video. So I just want to jump through Trader University's slides and really highlight some of the points where he thinks he's absolutely correct on everything, and kind of give a response to that. So in his first slide here on the screen, it says Bitcoin Cash, Bcash. They love to call it Bcash because they see it as a derogatory name, and that's kind of like his tone, right? He's just talking very like derogatory towards someone that doesn't agree with him. Bcash is a failed fork of Bitcoin. Hard fork equals you copy the code and change it in a way that is not backwards compatible. So let's talk a little bit about the history there. So Bitcoin Cash really forked off of Bitcoin because it wanted to keep its fees low on chain. It did not find it acceptable to have fees going to $50 to $100 for people to move their Bitcoin. And they believe that Bitcoin had worked great from 2008 until 2017 when the fork occurred, and that it had grown this world phenomenon. And now all of a sudden, the current people that kind of took over the protocol, centralized around Blockstream, he denies this later in the video, but we'll talk more about that, wanted to change the user experience. They were okay with slower transactions that cost a lot of money, when the people that were still a part of Bitcoin at the time, that later moved to Bitcoin Cash, that were pushed out, wanted the blockchain to be accessible and low fee and very competitive in the currency market and as a payment system to like things like Visa and PayPal. Where Bitcoin wanted to bet the house on a future technology that didn't exist at the time, that we will point out some critiques about, which he says Lightning Network is perfect and nothing to worry about there. I think it's fair to be critical of it, right? But we'll be critical of Bitcoin Cash too. So that's kind of a brief background on the visions of it, and yeah, and he calls it a failed fork, and there is some reason to say that the Bitcoin Cash has struggled, and we'll talk more about that. So yeah, the code did change, right? So the user experience of Bitcoin previous to 2017 stayed consistent on Bitcoin Cash, and it changed for the people on what became the majority hash rate. And somehow, through things like Reddit forums, our Bitcoin censored everyone else from talking about Bitcoin, and they pushed this one narrative that it had to be a small blocks, and it was really strange, right? The core philosophy around Bitcoin had totally changed over a course of a couple years, and there's a lot of conspiracies around this, why it changed when it works great as a payment system. And I want to add to that, so the Bitcoin people, BTC currently, they don't want to increase the block size, because increasing the block size means it would take more computer storage to run a node and process transactions on the network. So the lower the block size, the more computers that could potentially do this, right? But I don't know why Trader University doesn't talk about this, or why any Bitcoin maximalist wouldn't be critical of why can't the block size increase and stay competitive with Moore's Law. Moore's Law is scientifically proven to drive down cost of technology and computer storage. And if you look at your iPhone over years, the iPhone always has more storage for you than it did before. Whenever you go to get a new iPhone, it's because it's getting cheaper and cheaper for memory storage, and this trend is going to continue. So for Bitcoin never to change its block size over its 13 years is ignoring science. And you should really ask yourself, why would we want to ignore science and push people off chain? We'll talk more about that. So, next slide. So, is BCH really a failed fork? And then he compares the two market caps, right? Bitcoin has a ginormous market cap at 790 billion, while Bitcoin Cash has a much smaller one at only 6 billion. So total market cap is essentially all the coins that are out in existence multiplied by the price, and you get a market cap. This is true. Bitcoin has done a very good job at growing its market cap, and Bitcoin Cash has struggled, and for a large part because they've had multiple forks. So the community has continued to pull apart, and that has taken market cap in different areas, and it's been harder to build a community, to build a network effect around. Where Bitcoin Core becoming more centralized around companies like Blockstream, which is bad, but the pro is that it did keep a community, and it has an incredibly strong network effect. Incredibly strong. Bitcoin is a world phenomenon, and that network effect is extremely powerful. So the community not splitting, it's been able to continue to rise in price, where Bitcoin Cash has really struggled at creating a strong community that hasn't been splitting. They had to split with Bitcoin SV, with personalities like Craig Wright, and then eCash, Amari Sachet, the programmer I think that actually first duplicated the Bitcoin code for Bitcoin Cash, won a developer fund. So it's good reason to be critical of this. One thing I would say in response is that Bitcoin Cash has stayed very consistent on what it wanted to be. It wanted to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and not centralized around a big company like Blockstream, a big personality like Craig Wright, or with Amari's led split, we'll call it eCash. Didn't want a developer fund. So when new coins got minted, we did not want to tax those coins for a centralized developer fund to develop. We wanted volunteers to come and build on the network to keep it decentralized. And he points out, because of this, the price of Bitcoin Cash has collapsed since 2017 against Bitcoin. And yeah, Bitcoin Cash, when it first forked off, it was very a great opportunity to really challenge who deserved the Bitcoin name, because Bitcoin Cash can actually obtain the longest chain if it were to have a higher hash rate. So that if it had more computers running nodes on the network, it would have a higher hash rate, and therefore have the longest chain per the Bitcoin white paper, and therefore it would be Bitcoin. And at one time, the hash rate got very close, and so it's been a very combative war, and it definitely has played out better in Bitcoin's performance so far. And then he goes to talk about the transactions on chain, how the Bitcoin network has all these transactions, and Bitcoin Cash, he says, looks like a graveyard. And he shows this illustration here, but he doesn't tell you that Bitcoin Cash transactions actually at times has surpassed Bitcoin's. And he also doesn't tell you that Bitcoin Cash's transactions are up exponentially year to date. They're up like 3 times. And Bitcoin is staying stagnant. And it's staying stagnant by design because it wants to push people off chain. So you should be worried that it's being stagnant, right? If your network's not growing in usage, you should be concerned, right? So Bitcoin Cash is growing in usage, which is a great sign. Then he talks about the Lightning Network, right? The solution to everything, essentially, right? And he talks about how great the Lightning Network is, and how there's nothing wrong with it, and forgets to mention how great of a user experience Bitcoin Cash is. You can send any amount of money to anyone in the world with instant transactions for a fraction of a penny, and nobody can stop it. The Lightning Network, while it can have cheap payments and has real bad reliability issues, and it's highly centralized the majority of the time, and I have tried to use Lightning Network. And I'm not sure if Trader University has ever used Bitcoin Cash or used the Lightning Network or used Bitcoin at all, because a lot of people that actually use crypto are big fans of Bitcoin Cash because it is great to use. Lightning Network is challenging, and with cryptocurrency, you don't want to give up your privacy or the sovereignty of your coins. And in most instances, through Lightning wallets like Strike and the Chiva wallet in El Salvador, these wallets are highly centralized, and they make you KYC yourself. And in many instances, you don't even own the Bitcoin. Because if you don't own the keys, it's not your Bitcoin. So he points out this video by Andre Jick that he's a big fan of Bitcoin, and he likes Bitcoin Cash. He sees a very good argument for it. And I'm gonna play this video that he played for you. And Andre brings up some really good points, and Trader University sees nothing to worry about here.
So we'll have Lightning Network basically, where you and I can transact on this second layer infinitely, instantaneously, cheaply, and when we're ready, that transaction, the net result of all the transactions are gonna get settled, and then they get sent to layer 1 on the blockchain, and that's when we resolve the transactions. Does that make sense?
I've heard that was going to happen for years.
That's gonna, yeah, it's been in the works for a long time,
Okay.
because it's a very complicated system to build, but that's one of the solutions.
Who's building it?
It's the core team from Bitcoin Core, yeah.
Okay.
That kind of sounds like Robinhood trading Bitcoin in a
It's
sense.
exactly what it is, yeah. It's derivatives, that's right, which is one of the criticisms that the Bitcoin Cash team had. Their criticism was, you're literally recreating the current financial system.
You're literally recreating the current financial system.
Because who's to say that we can't just print infinite amount of currency on the Lightning Network?
Right.
You have literally
That's true.
Are we the baddies?
gotten rid of all the fundamentals of Bitcoin because you're no longer using that tech. You are using another layer that is not even connected to Bitcoin. Just like we did with cash, because we got rid of base layer 1. We got rid of gold. And now it's a free-for-all. We're printing infinitely. That's what people are afraid is going to happen to Bitcoin eventually.
That's a great point.
Yeah, we'll go to layer 2, cool. But then who owns that? Who controls that? Who prints that?
So he talks about in this video, Andre, about how the second layer is a lot like the second layer that we have with paper money. Like, you know, for a long time, the base layer was gold. Then we started using IOUs of the gold, and then it got really dishonest, right? They started printing more of this IOU of the gold, which devalued it. It was a dishonest system. And the fear is that this could happen with the Lightning Network. But the truth is, it looks like it already might have. And Mark Falzon actually pointed this out. I'll link his channel below. He does a lot of great investigative work on crypto in general, and he's been in El Salvador. But when El Salvador went out and bought a bunch of Bitcoin and then gave it out, they gave out more than they bought, which is concerning, right? They have this highly centralized application that no one's really sure how it works. Some people say it runs on an altcoin. Nobody really knows, right? But Trader University just wants to parade this around that a government is now mandating a currency on people and buying it with their tax dollars and making every business accept it, which is extremely interesting that he's rooting this on and doesn't find any reason to be critical of it, right? Only be critical of Bitcoin Cash, never be critical of Bitcoin BTC. So, moving on. The Lightning Network is not some project stuck in beta. I hope it is, right? If this is the final product, I'm a little bit more bearish. I think Lightning Network will get better. I have used the Moon wallet. It's not flashy. I've had failed payments on it, but it is a non-custodial Lightning Network wallet, and it does have issues, and hopefully it gets better, right? Like if that gets better, that's interesting. You know, and the thing is that, you know, Bitcoin Cash people, they're not like critical of a second layer. They're just saying, why are we ignoring science and saying that the base layer cannot be more accessible and cheaper for people? And this wouldn't affect hash rate because Moore's law brings down the cost of storage for everyone, but we can't have this conversation. And Trader University never once brought this up, right? Because he just wants to be a Bitcoin maximalist because he just feels like if any other coin does well, it hurts Bitcoin. But actually it's a whole community, right? We're trying to rewrite the whole financial system and we all benefit each other. That's the truth. And what I really mean by that is the more things that are tested out in the market, the more we're gonna find good practices and bad practices. If you don't call it the bad practices that do occur with Bitcoin, you know, it's not gonna be as great for the entire community, right? So moving on. Then he says it's being used all around the world, including El Salvador. And so El Salvador is a tyrannical implementation of Bitcoin, which we should be critical of. And they're using the Chivo wallet, which is highly centralized. People don't own the keys to their Bitcoin. They gave out more than they bought. A lot of issues there, but why talk about it, right? Because Bcash people are the liars, right? And the Bitcoin maximalists, they're just so holier than thou. So anyways, moving on. Bitcoin Lightning capacity. So he points out here how the transactions have really grown. Yeah, when you put a gun to someone's head and said you have to do something, they may do it and that may help you grow, right? But Bitcoin Cash, their transactions grow exponentially last year as well. And that was through voluntarism. And you have massive adoption happening all over the world. You have places in Australia like Bitcoin Cash City. You have places like St. Kitts and Nevis that has hundreds of merchants using it. In St. Martin, you have people in New Hampshire, the huge Bitcoin Cash clusters up there. But if you ask a Bitcoin maximalist, these people are all just liars living decentralized throughout the world. It's crazy. So I think he comes over here to like summarize the Lightning Network is permissionless. No, it's not. If you're using an application where you have to KYC yourself and you don't hold your keys, you do not have any permission, really. You are asking for permission. Lots of different groups are building on it. There are some groups building on it. He names like 4 or 5 of them. Then he shows the white paper and claims that he knows what Satoshi's vision was for the coin, but then he says maybe Satoshi had one vision and maybe it changed. So he really contradicts himself how he talks about Satoshi's vision, which at the end of the day just ignores the fact on why we can't pay attention to science and increase the block size in some way that would not affect the hash rate, but allow more users to use it. Imagine if Apple said, we cannot increase the storage space on your iPhone, because if we do that, it's going to cost a whole lot more. But we've seen over time that it has not cost a whole lot more because bandwidth has improved, and therefore we can store our data more efficiently over time at the same or falling cost. Go figure. Trader University. Bitcoin got to eat its cake and have it too. Bitcoin has performed well with price. It's a large asset, but you know what? So did Yahoo in the late 90s. Everyone thought Yahoo probably would have been the major search engine and place for the web, but we learned that it was Google that ended up taking over that position, right? So while things may seem like they're going one way today, if the fundamentals do not hold to prove strong and people in the group are not critical of things of the project, this could certainly change. I don't care how big you get, right? We've seen market caps fall exponentially, and we've seen laggards grow exponentially too, like a Bitcoin Cash. So this is completely possible, if not probable. Bitcoin is focused on making the base layer as secure and compact as possible so that anyone can run a node. Sure, but has also censored people that need to use the base layer that can't afford to pay $5, $10, $50, $100 in fees, right? So, and it has now subjected them to mostly custodial apps. Bitcoin is digital gold. Something worth pointing out here, right? Like, so when Satoshi left Bitcoin, he handed the keys of the project over to someone named Gavin Andresen. And Gavin Andresen is not talked about a lot today, but Gavin Andresen had exponential growth in those early days. And when the fork occurred, they had pushed Gavin out of it. Blockstream took over the project. Gavin tweeted what he'd been working on all those years was Bitcoin Cash, not Bitcoin BTC. And he said this because he was working on both a digital cash system and a great store value like gold. Let's just ignore that. Let's say that the takeover from Gavin was perfectly okay, and Bitcoin is great. He's saying Bitcoin Cash ended up with neither. Bitcoin Cash has had to rebuild its entire infrastructure and has stumbled in doing so, but it has grown in a payment system, and it is a $6 billion market cap, which we can say is not as big as Bitcoin. It is certainly a large network. And then Mr. Trader University goes on to talk about Bitcoin.com and call Roger Ver a scammer. So let's talk about that. Trader University, you are trying to pump some narrative of being a maximalist online and sell people a course, it sounds like Trader University, where Roger Ver built the first round of seed funding in cryptocurrency. Bitcoin would not be where it is today without Roger Ver. Roger Ver was the world's first investor in crypto-related startups. So when he found Bitcoin, he didn't just stop there. He said, how can we build on this? He was a seed investor into companies like blockchain.com, BitPay, Purse.io, Zcash, Ripple, literally just creating innovation. And this guy wants to go on YouTube and call someone like this a scammer because he has a difference of opinion, just attacking people. I don't know why people feel the need to attack unless they have some kind of insecurity within themselves. And Trader University, I'm sure you're a great guy, but like, it's very misnarrative, and I'd love to have a more long dialogue because there's a lot of things that you're missing, and I think you're just getting force-fed like just one narrative. You're not thinking about what has actually happened here and what things that Bitcoin could do better, and also what Bitcoin Cash could do better. I like to see both of them do well, and I'll criticize them where they need to be criticized, and I'll help them where they want help that I agree with. But to call one of the largest innovators and investors in cryptocurrency's history a scammer, Roger Ver will be written history books as cryptocurrency takes over the world. Trader University, you're just gonna be some guy on the internet that is just being nasty with people. If that's a legacy you want to leave behind, that's fine. So that's how we summarize the video, with just not only attacking a community and then getting more personal. I hope he now feels better for himself. I hope he feels like he won something. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you watch this video, I'll have a link in the description below. You can give your own thoughts about it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel for future content. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I post there pretty much daily. I'll put my handle down here, rgiffen89. I post there pretty much daily. I'm gonna get back to doing higher quality videos on YouTube here. My traveling should start slowing down. I need to just go see the world for a little bit, but I'm back in action and here to build a better world where people can have sovereignty of their money and make payments and not be censored, just improve their lives while we're here. We're not here for a long time, so let's enjoy it. Thank you for watching, and I'll
See you guys in my next one.